All right. Hi, and sorry for the small delay. I was trying to send out a few advertisements of this live stream, but I see we don't have anyone yet. So we will start the recorded version of this with hello, welcome to the Slava Heroyam podcast, episode 8. Today, as usual, we'll first talk about a Ukrainian aid organization that I've discovered and could use y'all's support. I will talk about a hero of the week, and we will remember some folks that we have lost. And then, as I kind of was hoping to do last week, we will do it this week. We will react to the Kings and Generals breakdown of the Ukrainian trap that was set last month. Where they were able to pretty much crush an entire division. I've hinted at it a lot recently. And if I can talk about it, we can talk a little bit about drone production and some of the main ways that Russia has amped up their drone production this week, or in the past couple weeks, really, and which company does that, and we'll talk about some companies that or one in particular that should be boycotted for their support in continuing to deal with Russia. Okay, so I'm gonna. All right, we don't have any viewers that I can see at the moment. Forgive me while if you are out there, give me one moment to pull up something that I wanted to go over. I'm running a little bit behind this week, but I didn't want to miss my podcasting time slot. Let's see. First thing I want to go over is oh, hey, there I am. Okay. All right. Okay, we're sharing the hero of the week. We'll start off the podcast with that. We're going to talk about the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade's Major Sergei Bondar. And it's one of these guys that I wish I knew his call sign. Tigger may have known his call sign. Maybe I should have asked him. before I did this podcast. If I can find it out, I will put it below. But Sergey was my age, 46 years old. And I'm trying to imagine still being a fighter pilot at my age. Now, Tigger, who we talked to on episode 4 of the podcast, Colonel Swertfogger, is a little bit older than me and didn't retire till last January. So being a fighter pilot is a career that you can do into your 50s, apparently. I didn't know that. So it's not unheard of that Maverick would have been able to do that in Top Gun Maverick. But here is a 46-year-old still flying, still kicking ass, taking names. I'd like to know something about how much ass he kicked, because he was awarded he did not get awarded the Hero of Ukraine, like many of these pilots that I've gone over did. But as a person in a command position, he was awarded I'm reading this so I can say it correctly, or try to. Bohdan Khmelnytsky. So it's the Order of Bohdan Khmelnytsky, who was a famous Cossack leader. And the Ukrainian Cossacks, you can think of as a group of a mercenary society that were stemmed kind of from the Rus, but they were Orthodox Christians, and they became very fierce warriors in a warlike city-state society. And so whenever you're talking about, but the thing about them, about the Cossacks, is they were a democratic society, in the same way that you can think of the pirate communities of the Caribbean. So that type of crude democracy, and that is about all I know. But this award, which originally was a Soviet award, just to celebrate the fierceness of these folks, has now become even deeper meaning for Ukraine, for someone that is doing a lot to ensure the whole protection of the country. So he was awarded that, and on August 23rd, there's a jet from the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade. It's painted with the Ghost of Kiev symbol. And unfortunately, on August 23rd, he came back from a night mission, in which he is credited with engaging air-to-air targets and doing an air-to-ground mission. They obviously can't talk about these missions yet, and that's kind of what Tigger was talking about at the end of our conversation in episode 4, was how a lot of these stories are so simplified right now, because and allowing us to only kind of speculate. We can even only speculate the first air-to-air engagement of an F-16 against Su-35, and how that engagement was won with a long-range BVR missile shot. But when you're returning from a night vision, a lot can go wrong. And what I would speculate on is that not only do you have to worry about aircraft, but you've got to worry about if maybe his aircraft was damaged coming back. Maybe it's quite possible the runway was in bad shape as well. And they are doing these nighttime operations under minimal lighting, because what Ukraine has managed to effectively do is rotate the position of their air force over time. They don't keep launching from the same bases. Throughout this entire war, they have rotated their positions, and they do this with all their aircraft, not just the 29s, but the F-16s as well. They keep them moving. They keep the enemy guessing. They're never staying in place for long enough to satellite imagery to pinpoint them so that somebody can just program one of those many, many drones to come after them. Or even if they're in a hardened shelter, they're not completely safe in there. So it's better to rotate them around. So he could have taken off from one airfield and was having to land on another one that he was less familiar with, or that there had been issues with and issues of communication. Whatever the cause, they lost a Mirage 2000 under similar circumstances under a night mission. But the pilot managed to eject in that case. But unfortunately, the deputy commander of the 40th Tactical Aviation Squadron was not able to eject. And so in the written article that I wrote on this, I honored him with the poem High Flight. And if you're not familiar with the poem High Flight by John Gillespie Maggi Jr., it's one of my favorite poems. I mean, they drill it into you in the Air Force, but it really is one that emotionally connects to pilots, and I hope it will emotionally connect to you. And when you think of this pilot and what he did for Ukraine and helping build that squadron that is so famous today for defending Kyiv and making sure that city stayed free, to give Ukraine, the rest of Ukraine, the chance to stay free and to keep fighting to the point where they have F-16s and more as they continue to try to outbuild Russia and outshoot Russia. Okay. So the hero of the week is pilot related. So I figured the support organization oh my goodness. Was that never? Okay. Well, let me show you his picture since that was not broadcasting this entire time. This system seems like I should be able to hit a button and display the screen that I want to show you. So obviously I'm still learning this. Doesn't look like I have anybody watching anyways still. So we can kind of goof around. Nope. Noisy things are happening in the background. All right. On to the next important subject. You get a look at Major Bondar. And here's the award. And here is the jet I was talking about with the Ghost of Kyiv symbol on it. Major Bondar helped construct that squadron. I'm not sure how I'll work this into the edit, but I will do it some way. I may just, as I'm talking, redo this footage. Okay. So now we remove that from the stage, and we will talk about Wingmen for Ukraine. Ugh. All right. That's weird. There it is. Okay. All right. Now, see, the weird thing is I have to go back and add this to the stage. So, our organization of the week is Wingmen for Ukraine. We're also going with a pilot themed. This organization is run out of Fresno, California. I have a feeling it's run by members of the 144th Fighter Squadron. Everybody's face is covered in this picture because that was probably when some Ukrainians came and trained with the 144th. So there we are. Okay. Definitely. Okay, so Anastasia Army, U.S. resident and a citizen of Ukraine, got married to an Air Force pilot, Drew. Is that Drew? Or is that Drew on the left? Best-selling author Adam Makos. Lieutenant Colonel, retired, Jonathan Jersey Bird. I think there's Jersey. Okay, he was also part of Clear Skies. So I should have asked Tigger about these guys. And what they do is they raise money for the Ukrainian Air Force for their equipment, for helmets and survival gear that they need if they need to eject, and first aid kits, pressure suits, looks like fireproof gloves, survival radios, that kind of thing. You can buy Ghost of Kiev little yellow Lego guys from them. So from Brick Mania, not Lego, but they're very similar to Lego. Brick Mania, get the Ghost, donate today. So you get these. Receive the custom Ghost of Kiev patch with your donation of $250 or more. Wow. So they are laying into the legend to build money. Now I've reached out to them. I will see if they respond, and maybe we can have someone come talk about them. But this is the group that I want to highlight in this podcast, and we may circle back around to them, especially if we can have a spokesperson come talk with us. So we've donated safety gear, small aircraft, and funds. Anyway, as I always am a proponent of saying, Ukraine isn't getting the best support right now. They're getting some, and they're getting some from Europe. But we can take matters into our own hands and take just a teeny bit of what we would give our own veterans. These are veterans and current pilots and guard pilots that want to support Ukraine. So I'm saying take some of the money you would give to me as a veteran for my medical care or whatever. I have to go do my own eye doctor appointment anyway, because otherwise I have to wait till January to do an eye doctor appointment. So take the money that I would have spent on that eye doctor appointment, that your taxpayer dollars would have spent on them, or your money that you would have given to a veteran charity organization, and just give $5 to $10 to support Ukrainian pilots this time. Right. We've talked about our hero of the week. We've talked about our Ukrainian organization of the week. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about who is building all these. Uh, who is building all of these drones that are going into Poland? I think there is a new report that more drones just went into Poland. Did I see that correctly? Man. Sorry, I have a small house and people are slamming doors. So if you're hearing that and you were actually live, I'll probably edit those out. But I don't know. I saw something. No, I'm in the middle of a podcast. Jesus Christ, I sound like some kid in his basement. No, Mom. All right. Leave that in there, I guess, because it's kind of funny. I'm gonna have to mute my mic a second, guys, because things are going on stupid. So I did not see anything about another incursion into Poland, but I did see that a similar ambush to the one we're about to watch happened again. And this time, Brazilian troops are involved. So, of all the nations that I could have, now these are probably Brazilian volunteer troops. I don't know if they're ones from the actual government. I need to research this a little bit more. But isn't that interesting? Entire divisions of uh, Brazilian troops have reinforced the Ukrainian lines. Okay, so maybe talk about that. I'll do a little article about that tomorrow because I am not caught up on that. All right. right. All right. And as always, we want to honor the fallen, especially civilians who are fallen. What I'm about to share here is a man who has a large farm outside Kherson. We've talked before about what an agricultural nation Ukraine is. Um, this gentleman could have joined the war effort, but his farm is one of the more important ones. Um, so he stayed and would fight drones off every day because in Kherson, rather than the constant barrage of large drones, they are fighting off smaller drones that go after individual civilians. The Ukrainians have erected tunnels to kind of try to protect people as they travel to and from the city. And these tunnels are made of a special kind of netting. Let me see if I can bring up that real quick. Okay. So there's lots of pictures of them putting up the netting, but I really want to find the completed tunnels by Kherson. If you're watching, I apologize for my disorganization. All right. Maybe we can get to that next. But this gentleman's, so we'll get to what has been done to help protect people. But this guy, Alexander Hordienko, he was a member of the Kherson Oblast Council. So he was in his car. He drone as he was touring his own fields, and the drone took him out. Just a civilian farmer trying to farm. That shotgun was for protection against drones, and I'm sure he had a drone detector, but sometimes those are not enough. One of the organizations that will be looking to help send supplies to, one of the organizations that will help send supplies to could help people buy these drone detectors. So that is the company that I will be, the nonprofit company that I will be talking to you guys about next time to help protect gentlemen like this. But a farmer should just be able to farm. Hey, a lot of guys, the farms are so important. They're Ukraine's main economy, that they can't go be soldiers. They have to keep doing that job. So they will, even though he has a weapon to pick up, he's never going to be a frontline soldier. And there are many like him under attack. And they'd like to take out these farmers because they want to take out Ukraine's economy. So civilians like that are a target of terror for a lot of reasons. So we remember Alexander, and we will hopefully be able to do more to protect people like him in the future. I'm going to share the latest Instagram from Zarina, who talked to us in the very first episode. She's been providing regular updates on Kherson. And I wanted to show an update from her. So can I make this bigger at all? I can't. Why can't you make an Instagram bigger? That is so weird. I share it to like Messenger. No, that's stupid. I think I can actually do this though. All right, here we go. All right. So again, we are sharing some of these drone tunnels, some things that we've done to protect farmers and other civilians. Let's start from the beginning. All right. See all the netting set up here and speed, all because you might be tracked and attacked by a drone. And they were just trying to go to a market down here, and a little bit of Ukraine culture and people trying to just live their lives. Gosh dang it. Now I gotta start all over. All right. Sometimes I am really glad no one's watching. All right. So the anti-drone tunnels are what they've had to do to protect people leaving Kherson. And they keep moving fast. I've got a good still picture of that. Let's see.
Ось є. Це наша візитівка. Це дві візитівки. Ось детектор дрона та кавун. Це 27-й міжнародний театральний фестиваль Мельпомена Таврі. Під час війни він не зупинявся, тому що штаб-квартира вже була у Львові, потім була в Одесі.
I just love how, despite everything, they continue to do their festivals and their culture. They have to do a lot of it underground, like this theater.
Яка? Оця.
Оця?
Так.
Great art in the basement.
Доброго дня. Це журналіст. Зараз зайдемо на сцену.
This is a theater.
Кайвазовський.
That sounded a little bit like a Star Wars band to me.
Можна запускати.
Oh, there we go.
Любов.
доцільніше.
Фільм відображує трагедію українців, трагедію окремого міста Херсона. Але насправді цей фільм про боротьбу, яку веде...
She showed their documentary.
We're going at 160 kilometers per hour.
Зараз таке враження, ніби я в своєму селі і вертаюсь по трасі з дискотеки додому.
All right, so there you have it. I finally shared that correctly. All right, this is a good picture of the drone tunnels leaving Kherson. See, even though I'm sharing it, you're not seeing it because I have to hit another button. There's the drone tunnels as you're leaving Kherson. You kind of saw them fly by in that Instagram video, but that's what they've had to do, and they take a lot of time to build. And even that doesn't guarantee you protection. You've got to have those drone protectors. You've got to move fast. Your life has a constant danger to them living in this area. So I just was remembering one person lost in this area earlier. And now we'll get to the main point of the show. And hopefully we won't have any more background noise. I've also got the wrong banner up today. The banner should be, although Ed's Friends is a good organization. If you want to know about Ed's Friends, watch the breakdown of last week's podcast. Today we were showing off Wingmen for Ukraine. All right. Man, I would be really, really mad if a whole bunch of people were watching because all right, add banner. Show. So that is the website of that I wish I had up this whole time. But depending on where that goes in let me remove this. Okay, so there's the website of the organization of the week, wingmenforukraine.com. I had the wrong website up for a while, so you'll see some more of this podcast a little bit out of order, and then you'll get back to a point where we have this up the rest of the time. And in fact, so let's go to our main reaction where we finally get to react to Kings and Generals. And then we will call it a podcast. Let us make sure we are actually sharing the right thing this time. So it's a two-step process, everyone. Share screen. Pick the thing we want to share. Go back. Add to the stage. I hope. Okay, so there it is. What the hell?
At this point in the war in Ukraine, it is challenging to discuss summer, spring, or winter offensives. The Russian army has been on the offensive ever since the autumn of 2023. Their pressure on Ukrainian defenses sometimes increases, other times they are less regular, but they have not stopped attacking in the past 2 years, with only very minor success in the grand scheme of things, despite what the Kremlin's propaganda and its foreign mouthpieces want you to believe.
Look at all those. So, just
2 years.
As
with
of
only
August
very minor
28th,
success in the grand scheme of
more
things,
than 600
despite what the
drones,
Kremlin's
11
propaganda
ballistic missiles, 20 cruise missiles. That was all in one day, excuse me. Drones. Really outdoing these ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. These guys can pack a bigger punch, but look at all the damage those can do. Now, Ukraine shoots down 90% of this stuff. They still do a lot of damage.
And its foreign mouthpieces want you to believe. All this amidst active diplomacy of the United States, as Putin keeps imitating interest in finding a negotiated solution, while also insisting on maximalist and unrealistic demands. Welcome to another update from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Every week, we release 3 new exclusive videos for our members and patrons. The Pacific War, the Eastern Front of World War II, has been losing many men in these probing attacks, seldom achieving meaningful advances. This is accompanied by the highest ever pace of combined missile and drone attacks on Ukrainian cities, to degrade the country's critical infrastructure and defeat the will of the Ukrainian people to resist. Russia has more manpower resources to keep feeding Russian men into the war machine. And while the Russian economy is experiencing problems, it is still capable of financing the war. Thus, Putin believes that he will eventually prevail in this war of attrition. A little bit more pressure on Ukraine, and the front will collapse. At least that's what Putin's generals are telling him. According to a Reuters article in August, they reportedly informed Putin that the Ukrainian front would fall apart within 2 to 3 months. Since the start of Donald Trump's second term as the American president, the Russian army has significantly increased pressure on Ukraine in order to achieve.
So Putin's generals can't even really tell him the truth. 2 to 3 months. But at the rate that they gain, I believe me and Ben Cook on the second episode talked about this. At the rate they're going, it would take them 2 years just to get the Donetsk Oblast, rather than make the whole front crumble.
Greater leverage in negotiations. Trump insists on ending the war immediately, and although Putin does not feel pressured enough to sign any deal, he would prefer to keep Trump on his good side. The calculation is that significant Russian progress on the battlefield would push Trump to put more pressure on Zelensky to agree to the Russian terms. But has Russia really achieved anything major? Anything that tells you Ukraine is on the brink of defeat? Let's look at Russia's immediate targets at this point in the war. Earlier, Putin announced Russia's intention to create a buffer zone on the border with Ukraine to prevent incursions like the one the Ukrainians achieved in Kursk. Have they succeeded? No. The Kharkiv front has not moved at all since May 2024. In Sumy, the Ukrainians have been liberating ground since the start of summer. Another immediate military-political goal is the complete capture of Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. Russia has controlled virtually all of Luhansk since 2022.
It would take them 2 years at their current pace of chipping away at the land to gain this. And when they wanted to negotiate, this is what Putin said, hey, just give us all this for free. That's the size of Switzerland, by the way.
But Donetsk has been another story. They have won several important battles, such as in Bakhmut and Avdiivka, and have achieved localized breakthroughs, like in Ocheretina. However, the Russian army has not even reached the most heavily fortified fortress belt of the Donbass. including the cities of Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Zhizhkivka, and Kostiantynivka. Their immediate goals are Pokrovsk and Liman. They have made only a minor advance towards Liman this summer. Their progress around Pokrovsk has been more impressive. But this important logistics hub is still in Ukraine's hands. Russian forward units have begun entering Pokrovsk proper since July.
Beyond the badge and beyond the shield, we
That's
really
annoying to
are
watch live,
ordinary
isn't it?
people who are really doing extraordinary things. And at the end of the day, we walk away.
But they have not yet established a secure foothold within the city.
I think if I'm going to
It
react
is
to
important
things, I
to
might have
understand
to
the
actually
nature of
pay
the
for
fighting in
YouTube.
Ukraine right now to
No
understand
ads.
why the Russians managed to enter Pokrovsk. The front line in Ukraine does not have a World War I-style endless line of trenches and million-man armies defending these trenches. Much smaller armies fight the war in Ukraine. The available manpower is insufficient to cover all of the vast front line, especially in Ukraine's case. The Ukrainian army's defense relies on strongholds and outposts in tactical.
What I like about Kings and Generals is they can only do it month by month, but they can really simplify it down for you. They just explained why this war is not like World War I. You don't have a vast system of trench networks. So if you can gain air superiority, or whichever side figures out how to gain the new type of air supremacy or superiority, be it through drones, be it through having good counter drones, that is going to cause that side to figure out a way to gain mobility, because they're still way more mobile than they ever were in World War I.
Particularly important positions to deter the enemy, while drone units are responsible for detecting the enemy's movement towards Ukrainian positions. Since the start of 2025, Russia has not been using tanks and armored vehicles in their assaults, given very high losses suffered at the hands of Ukrainian drones, and they're using small motorcycle units or infantry groups instead to avoid detection, which often move during the dark using anti-night vision equipment. These small groups then take positions in the Ukrainian rear with two key missions. The first is to identify the location of Ukrainian drone operation units and to eliminate them. The second is to wait for more mobile groups to arrive until their force is big enough to assault the Ukrainian positions. This is what happened northwest of Pokrovsk in August. The mobile groups of the Russian 132nd Brigade rapidly moved from Novotoretska to Vesela and Zoloty Kolodiez. The Russians would have been on the brink of capturing the key artery between Pokrovsk and Kramatorsk, the TO514 highway. But a Ukrainian counterattack led by the 1st Azov Corps liberated several villages, preventing the Russians from gaining a foothold in this area and encircling the remaining Russian soldiers in the area between Rubizhne and Kucherev Yar. So the battle for Pokrovsk is very much ongoing. It may last for months, given the usual pace of Russian advances, as seen in the battles of Toretsk and Chasiv Yar. Another immediate target of the Russian army is Kupiansk. On this front, the Russians have been trying to dislodge the Ukrainians from the eastern bank of...
Well, that was a little... I thought they were going to show how they crushed the counterattack with the trap of the HIMARS that I showed you guys. They just sort of told you this was a little bit simplified. But that whole thing around Provosk was a trap. I wonder, there's a lot of video left if they'll go back into it a little bit more. So let's keep watching.
The Oskil since late 2023, and after almost 2 years of fighting, they have managed to dissect the Ukrainian bridgehead into two. To capture the northern bridgehead, they must capture Kupiansk and sever the main lines of communication leading to it. For a long time, the Russian army has been banging its head against the wall in Sinkivka. However, in the summer, the Russians managed to break through to the northern outskirts of Kupiansk via Radkivka, bypassing Sinkivka at one point, and reached Sobolivka, coming dangerously close to the PO7 highway. But by late August, a series of Ukrainian counterattacks pushed the Russians out of the northern outskirts of Kupiansk. Here, the heavy battles do not relent, but the Russians have not yet reached their immediate goal in this sector either. The Kherson front has not moved since Ukraine's counteroffensive in 2022, while despite reports of Russian preparations to attack on the Zaporizhia front, there have been barely any meaningful changes here in the past 2 years either. So, despite all the massive pressure the Russians put on the Ukrainians on the battlefield, and despite their major losses, in the grand scheme of things, the front line in Ukraine has barely moved. Of course, aerial warfare is another key component of Putin's war in Ukraine. We have already reported about the increased domestic production of Shahed drones and the addition of new modifications, which make it harder to shoot them down. This has enabled Russia to strike Ukraine more regularly and with a higher number of drones. A higher number of cheap drones are launched.
The modifications he's talking about are anti-electronic warfare modifications. So one of the ways that you can tell a difference between a decoy drone and the real drone is the decoy drones will pretty much get disrupted by electronic attack more frequently than the normal drones. So even though decoy drones are useful in that way, and probably a lot of the ones sent into Poland were decoy drones of the 19, they are figuring out ways to reinforce them. And the Russians are doing this by reverse engineering the drones. And I was going to talk about the factory that they get made at. There's one particular factory that makes the Russian drones, takes the Iranian drones and basically makes them Russian. Whereas everyone else, they're just kind of copies of the Iranian Shahed drones. And that factory is called the where's my here it is. Okay. It's got a funny name. Funny Alabuga. Or Jafar, I would call it Alabubu. The Alabuga power plant. They've got increased the size of the factory. If you've seen like propaganda video of them building all these drones in this factory, that's the Alabuga factory. But Alabuga is where they have enhanced and upgraded the Shahed drones and made them more capable, in addition to more numerous.
And they overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses, enabling more Russian ballistic and cruise missiles to strike Ukrainian cities. For instance, on August 28th, Russia launched almost 600 drones, 11 ballistic missiles, and 20 cruise missiles, killing more than 20 people. But this has long turned into a game.
We talked about some of those 20 people.
Ukraine has been relentlessly expanding its ability to strike deep inside Russia by manufacturing new long-range drones. Most recently, Ukraine started producing Flamingo cruise missiles, which reportedly have a 3,000-kilometer range and an over 1-ton warhead. There are some rumors that Flamingo has already been tested on the battlefield, but we will have a better understanding of its effectiveness against the Russian air defenses in the upcoming months. For now, Ukraine continues to rely on its drones, mostly targeting Russia's military
production. There's been a lot of
facilities
coverage of the
and oil
Flamingo
refineries.
missile.
In
It
August,
has been
Ukraine
in service.
successfully struck several refineries, causing tangible problems for Russia. We have seen videos of very long queues for gasoline in Russian gas stations due to the reported shortages. According to Reuters, Ukrainian strikes on 10 oil refineries have caused disruptions of at least 17% of Russia's refining capabilities. The Moscow Times reported that the prices of AI-92 and AI-95 type gasoline in Russia has increased by 38 to 49% respectively since the start of 2025 due to the Ukrainian strikes. As we have already said in our previous videos, Russia's economic woes, such as rising inflation, high rates of non-payment.
The economy is how you beat these guys. The economy is how eventually World War I was won. And right now, if you're worried about just attrition, the the economy for Russia would make a difference if there were strict sanctions. And that is why I wonder if this has any more tactical or if it just gets political. It looks like it gets a little political. All right. Oh, this is always important about how much aid is coming to Ukraine. They are able to cover that pretty well. So let's see.
The Financial Times reported that Ukraine wants to purchase $100 billion worth of weapons from the United States, but there has not been any official confirmation of this. Still, the European allies are already purchasing weapons from the United States for Ukraine. There are reports that the United States will sell AMRAAM missiles and other relevant supporting equipment worth $3.5 billion.
AMRAAM.
Maintenance equipment for M777 howitzers worth more than $100 million, Patriot air defense missiles and components worth €500 million, and another $500 million package, including air defense systems, Patriot equipment, anti-tank systems, and 3,350 ERAM missiles worth $850 million to Ukraine. This is not aid anymore, and Europe and Ukraine would have to pay for further weapons and equipment from the United States. But August has been the most stable month in terms of deliveries and commitments from America for quite a while. Ukraine continues to receive support from other allies too. On August 8th, the EU announced another tranche of direct financial aid. The Czech Prime Minister Fiala stated that Ukraine has already received 1 million artillery shells within the framework of the Czech Ammunition Initiative. The German Vice-Chancellor Klingbeil said that Germany will allocate €9 billion annually to Ukraine for the next 2 years. The Canadian Prime Minister Carney stated that the earlier announced $2 billion Canadian military aid package, consisting of drones, armored vehicles, and munitions, will be delivered by September. So the foreign military aid to Ukraine is flowing rather stably after the disruptions which started in 2024. Ukraine is also ramping up its domestic manufacturing. But it is clear that the Ukrainian public is getting tired of the war too. Almost 70% of Ukrainians now prefer for the war to end in negotiations, but they still remain categorically opposed to Putin's demands of capitulation. It is evident that this long war is causing fatigue and creating more and more problems in Ukraine and Russia, and neither side appears capable of inflicting a decisive blow on the enemy to end the war in the short term. The German Chancellor Metz said that he was preparing himself inwardly for this war to last a long time, as neither Ukraine nor Russia appear to be on the brink of military defeat or economic exhaustion, which are usual causes of wars ending. Lastly, let's look at the visually documented equipment losses suffered by both parties as of September 3rd, brought to you by the Oryx blog. Russia has lost at least 4,113 tanks, 10,147 vehicles, 303 command posts and communication stations, 2,135 artillery systems and vehicles, 163 aircraft, and 161 helicopters. Ukraine has lost at least 1,256 tanks, 5,022 vehicles, 60 command posts and communication stations, 988 artillery systems and vehicles, 111 aircraft, and 52 helicopters. Further updates on the Russian invasion.
So if you look at that just in equipment terms, the Russians are losing almost twice as much. Especially when you think about command posts, 60 to 303. This is irreplaceable people. Vehicles, irreplaceable people. Tanks, probably not huge factor in the war right now. But just, kind of almost a 4-to-1 ratio there. So in terms of a war of attrition, the only where that it's even any close is an aircraft to aircraft. But somehow I think that there's going to be quite a few more aircraft losses on Russia by the time that we're able to conclude this war. So aid does work, but what would really work at this point is a no-fly zone. A no-fly zone, if 70% of Ukrainians would like to negotiate the end of the war, but they don't want to give up any territory, understandably. They're not going to make concessions to Putin. So that's a very important contrast. Then that no-fly zone becomes a tool for peace, not just a something they should do to be strong. And I don't know if I hammered that home enough last time, but we'll be talking no-fly zones more in the future. With that, I think we're done with the podcast. I don't know if anybody was watching live. If you were, thank you. Remember to look up Wingmen for Ukraine. Give them your support. And glory to those that support the Constitution of the United States, and Slava Ukraini.